You are listening to the Awake Athlete Podcast. I'm Jessica Mikowski, endurance athlete and mindset coach, here to share with you perspectives and contemplations from a 10,000-foot view of life. All right, you guys, I think we might be having a little bonus season here to season 1, but that's okay because life keeps flowing, and the way that we learn, yes, we learn from the energy of a teacher. The way I do is I share from my experience, and through paying attention to those experiences, what I take away. Because in essence, we're all on the same path. We're just awake to it to different levels, to the perfect level for each of us. So we got to relax. That's going to be a theme you're going to hear a lot. We really do. We need to relax. And if there's anything about like projection onto other people about what's going on within you, I was probably, I don't know, I guess maybe junior high when Frankie says relax or Freddie says relax? I don't know. And I went to Spencer Gifts in the mall. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I got my dad a big red sweatshirt that said relax on it. And really, I was the one that needed to relax. We know we can fight. We know we can endure. We know we can get it done. We know we can make shit happen. We've been making shit happen our whole life. So this is about allowing amazing shit to unfold with still utilizing our will, utilizing our power and strength, but we're doing it in a different way where we're attuning ourselves to a new way of living, not even a way of living, but a state of being, because it's about a state of being. And in order to do that, we have to be willing to break cycles. So I broke a cycle. It's now been a couple days ago. What I'm looking at actually is my journal. I wrote in my journal on August 9th. Maybe I'll just read you my journal. Stay with me. See what you think of it. Okay, I broke a cycle yesterday. So I guess I broke the cycle on the 8th of August. And it had everything to do with being patient and calm. The cycle was Clark would pick something up. Yesterday it was a dirty napkin, and I asked him to drop it. He does not obey. He doesn't even look at me. I get a charge. I'm frustrated. I have feelings of being a victim, feelings that BJ would make an unhelpful comment that spins me into anger and victimhood, and feelings that Clark was a bad boy and he must be punished. I looked at what I needed to believe in order to feel the way I was feeling. And also under that was just this belief that it was gross. So it was making me sick. But really, I had a fear that Clark would be hurt and that it would be my fault. Also, a few months ago, I was able to get into his mouth a bit. Oh, yes, I remember this. And once I was in, he bit down a little bit more, and I could feel the strength of his jaw. Maybe he is a carnivore after all. I don't know. He's doing really well on a vegan diet. I also hated the force involved in prying his mouth open. Yeah, that always felt violent to me. So yesterday, as we got closer to home, I noticed Clark's tendency to want to get home so he could scarf down whatever was in his mouth. I decided to keep walking. I healed the emotions with ho'oponopono and a relaxing breath. And when I was calm, I stopped and I asked him to drop it. He did not. We kept going. I kept working on not just letting the emotion and thoughts go unchecked, but I was breathing and watching. We stopped for a while on the grass and I waited. He sat and waited. He was drooling. I was getting feelings of swimming in the pool with the snorkel on for too long. It starts to gag me. We sat for a few minutes. His drooling continued. I decided to walk again, and I watched the voice that believed he needed to be punished. Like maybe I'll just walk the shit out of him and it'll get so bad that he'll drop it. I praised him for walking in heel. I repeated the drop it, asked several more times, and realized we'd have to remove ourselves from the environment because it wasn't working. We had to stop the walk and start to make it home. So I kept him on the leash as we entered the house, and I guided him to the kitchen, a space in the house that is a gateway to most of his desires. I asked him to sit. He did. Still drooling, he could not have been comfortable. This made me feel even more compassionate, witnessing his suffering because he wasn't willing to let go. I grabbed a few cashews and asked him to drop it. He remained steadfast. I put the cashews on the ground in front of him, held one up to his face. I could see his conflict. I felt his conflict. The cashews were not the catalyst for change. I went for the ringer. I reached up to the top of the refrigerator and grabbed a banana. At the sight of my reach, he dropped his head and tongued the dirty, nasty tissue from his grip. I praised him gently as he finished the job and went into full-blown celebration once it was fully on the ground. I stepped on it and Clark devoured the cashews and half the banana. Patience attains the goal. Life doesn't give a shit about your agenda. Let go of self-will in those moments. Don't settle for the perpetuation of a shitty cycle. Slow the fuck down and allow yourself to be done. So that was my journal entry. And what I want to point out about that is at the beginning, it's definitely choppy, but you can see I start to get into a flow. It's actually, I think, a nice little cohesive finish to it. Journal, you guys, journal. It's so important to journal. I think dumping the mind. My first cookbook came from a journal post. The Awake Athlete came from a journal post, which was previously under another title, which I think was its first form. It's like embryonic form. And I don't know if that title's gonna, or that project or whatever it may be is going to come back into fruition. So I'm going to let that kind of sit in the ethers for a little bit. But Awake Athlete essentially was born from journal posts. Episodes were born from journal posts. And sometimes I have no idea what I'm going to say. And that was always the barrier to not journaling. And journaling allows us to get our creativity on. And we are creative beings. We are creative beings. And so we can get creative in every moment. And solution energy is the energy of creation because we're creating something new. We're in a solution. And being on that walk with him, I could feel like I had to let go of agenda. I had to let go of, I had to just surrender to the experience and just allow the anger to be there while I practice being calm and meet the situation with love. Like, what is the loving story? Well, I feel like in that story with Clark, I became the loving story because Clark is always the loving story. Like, he was showing me his suffering. Like, he could not have been comfortable. He was drooling so much, holding onto this disgusting, I want to gag. I'm gagging right now. Disgusting napkin because he's unwilling to let go. And how many times are we choking? Or how many times have I choked myself in my life because I was unwilling to let go? Take what resonates, leave the rest. The only time you can break a cycle, the only time we can break cycles in our life that we have identified as unhelpful in creating momentum towards the life we desire, the only time we can make those shifts is in the now.